I always believed that love was enough to overcome any obstacle, that when two people commit to each other, their families naturally become one. My name is Tara, and I learned the hard way that sometimes the people who should support you the most can become your greatest adversaries. This is my story of how I struggled to make my in-laws happy and how impossible it was. I met my husband Peter at a charity gala 7 years ago. He was charming, intelligent, and seemed genuinely kind-hearted. After dating for a year, we got married in a beautiful ceremony. I should have noticed the warning signs during our engagement, how his parents, Margaret and Howard, always had something critical to say about our decisions, how they insisted on being involved in every aspect of our wedding planning. But love made me optimistic, and I believed that with time, they would warm up to me. When we got married, Peter and I moved into a house that my father had gifted to me years earlier. It was a beautiful colonial-style home that had been in my family for generations. My father, Jonathan, had renovated it completely before passing it on to me, hoping it would be the place where I would raise my own family someday. A year into our marriage, I discovered I was pregnant. Peter and I were ecstatic, but Margaret and Howard's reactions were lukewarm at best.
Well, I hope you're ready for this responsibility, Tara. A baby isn't just a cute accessory, you know.
I'm well aware of that, Margaret. Peter and I have been planning for this.
Just make sure you don't quit your job. Peter can't support a family on his salary alone.
I was planning to take some maternity leave, but I do intend to return to work. I am well aware that things are expensive and that we will need the money.
You know all that? Well, that's good. The last thing we want for our son is a freeloader, and we do so hope that you aren't a freeloader.
Their comments were always said in a laughing and comical tone, but I knew full well that they were anything but. That aside, the pregnancy was difficult, but nothing prepared me for what came after our son Oliver was born. By his second birthday, we noticed certain developmental differences. After numerous consultations with specialists, Oliver was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. The day we received the diagnosis, Peter held my hand tightly as we listened to the doctor.
Oliver shows clear signs of autism. With early intervention and therapy, he can lead a full and happy life. It's important that you both understand this isn't anyone's fault. Autism has complex genetic and environmental factors. We'll do whatever it takes to support him. Thank you.
I threw myself into researching everything I could about autism. I enrolled Oliver in early intervention programs, found the best therapists, and adjusted our home environment to better suit his needs. Peter was supportive at first, but I noticed a change in him after we visited his parents with the news.
This must come from your side of the family, Tara. There has never been anything like this in our bloodline.
Autism isn't something to be ashamed of, Margaret, and the doctor explained that it's not any one person's fault. It just happens.
Well, you were probably taking something during pregnancy that caused this. Did you drink too much coffee, eat fish, or did you do drugs or drink alcohol? Mom, Dad, please, this isn't helping.
No, it's not, and I didn't do anything wrong. It just happens. But Oliver is still a wonderful boy, and we will give him a wonderful life.
A wonderful boy? Hardly. He's damaged goods, not deserving of our family name.
Again, the words were said in a comical tone, but they had quite the bite to them. And Peter's defense was half-hearted, and I could see doubt creeping into his eyes. Over the following months, he would visit his parents by himself, and they became more frequent, and each time Peter returned, he seemed more distant from Oliver and me. One evening, as I was helping Oliver with his sensory exercises, Peter came home late again from his parents' house. His expression was cold, detached.
Tara, we need to talk.
Oliver's almost done with his exercises. Can it wait 20 minutes?
No, it can't. My parents have helped me see things clearly. This situation with Oliver isn't what I signed up for, and my parents are convinced that your genetic irregularities caused his condition.
Genetic irregularities? Peter, are you listening to yourself? Oliver is our son.
I've filed for divorce. My parents have agreed to help me get custody of the house. We think it's best if you and Oliver find somewhere else to live.
I was stunned into silence. The man standing before me was unrecognizable, a puppet whose strings were being pulled by his toxic parents. The next few weeks were a nightmare. Peter moved his parents into our house, claiming they needed to help him transition. They treated me like an intruder in my own home, ignoring Oliver completely as if his autism made him invisible to them. I even caught them moving him to an empty room because he was crying and they had no interest in consoling him. They figured that he wasn't even human and that they could just put him aside because of that. It was inhumane and completely child abuse. I found him sitting in the middle of an empty room, crying and wearing a dirty diaper. The rage I felt almost made me run straight to them and beat them senseless, but I held back as I knew that that would not work out in my favor if I gave in to the impulse. I did, however, document it. One morning, I found Margaret going through my personal documents. What are you doing with those?
Looking for the deed to the house. Peter says you claim it's yours, but that can't be right.
It is mine. My father gave it to me before Peter and I were even engaged.
Don't be ridiculous. A young woman like you couldn't possibly own a house like this outright. You must have convinced Peter to put your name on it somehow.
That was the last straw. I called my father that evening and explained everything.
Those people are in my house? The house I gave to my daughter? Oh, this ends now, Tara. I'm calling my lawyer, Richard Wellington. He's the best in the state. We're not just going to fight this divorce on your terms, we're going to make them regret ever crossing our family.
True to his word, my father hired Richard Wellington, one of the most formidable attorneys in the state. When I met with him, he listened carefully to my story, his expression growing darker by the minute.
They have absolutely no legal standing. The house is clearly in your name, gifted to you by your father with all proper documentation. As for custody of Oliver, we'll demonstrate that you've been his primary caregiver and advocate, especially regarding his autism care. Your husband's abandonment of his responsibilities and his parents' discriminatory attitudes will work strongly against them.
I just want what's best for Oliver. He needs stability and understanding, not judgment.
And he'll have it. We're going to file countersuits for illegal eviction attempts, emotional distress.
The legal battle was brutal. Peter's parents had convinced him that they would easily win. They had money and connections after all. But they grossly underestimated the strength of our case and the determination of my father and Richard Wellington. In court, Peter's lawyer tried to paint me as an unfit mother due to Oliver's autism, suggesting I had somehow caused it through negligence.
Your Honor, I'd like to present testimony from Oliver's developmental pediatrician, therapists, and early intervention specialists, all of whom will attest Tara's exceptional care and dedication to her son's well-being.
The testimonials were overwhelming. One by one, professionals who had worked with Oliver praised my commitment to his care and development. Meanwhile, it became increasingly clear that Peter had participated minimally in Oliver's therapy sessions and special needs care, often prioritizing his parents' opinions over expert medical advice. Then came the bombshell, my father's testimony.
I gifted this property to my daughter in 2016, 3 years before she married Peter. There was never any co-ownership arrangement. I have all the documentation here, including the original deed transfer and gift tax returns filed with the IRS.
The judge's ruling came down like a hammer. The house was indisputably mine, and Peter and his parents were ordered to vacate within 30 days. Peter was required to pay substantial alimony and child support, reflecting both our income disparity and the additional costs associated with Oliver's special needs care. But they refused to accept defeat. When the 30-day period expired, Peter and his parents remained in the house, changing the locks and refusing to respond to legal notices.
That's it. We're calling the sheriff's department. They've had their chance to leave with dignity.
Agreed. Tell the sheriff's department that they are armed. They will more than likely be a bit more forceful if they suspect that they will fight back. When the officers arrived and began knocking and announcing the eviction order, Howard emerged with a shotgun, pointing it at the door but not firing, just holding it with trembling hands. Margaret stood behind him, holding a Bible and screaming about divine justice, yelling that no one would take their home. Peter filmed the entire scene with his phone, shouting that the police were violating their rights and that they'd go down as martyrs.
Howard, put the weapon down. Don't make this worse than it already is. You come through this door, and I swear to God someone's leaving in a body bag.
Just as the standoff reached its breaking point, a neighbor, tired of the chaos, shouted from a window.
You're not martyrs, you're maniacs. Just go already.
Distracted, Howard turned for a second. Enough time for a trained officer to fire a beanbag round through the window, knocking the shotgun from his hands. Chaos erupted. Peter lunged at the officers. Margaret tried to bite one of them, and all three were wrestled to the floor amidst screaming and overturned furniture. All three were arrested, not just for trespassing, but for assaulting law enforcement officers and resisting arrest. As they were led away in handcuffs, bruised and disheveled, neighbors recorded the entire scene on their phones. By evening, videos of their violent resistance had gone viral, with social media users overwhelmingly supporting the autism mom, whose in-laws had tried to steal her home. In the aftermath, Oliver and I moved back into our house. My father stayed with us for a few weeks to help restore order and security. Oliver's therapy continued, and without the toxic presence of Peter and his parents, he began to thrive even more. Peter and his parents each received jail sentences. Peter for 30 days, his parents for 6 months due to the more serious nature of their assaults on the officers. They were also ordered to pay substantial fines and legal costs. Sadly, they didn't serve any jail time for child abuse, as it was my word against theirs, but it was more than enough for me that the judge gave me a restraining order that would prevent them from ever coming near me or Oliver ever again. As for me, I learned that sometimes the family you're born into or marry into isn't the family that will stand by you. But I also learned my own strength. Today, Oliver is 8 years old and making remarkable progress. We have built a beautiful life together, surrounded by people who accept him exactly as he is. Sometimes justice finds its way, even when the path to it is painful. If you don't subscribe in the next 5 seconds, absolutely nothing will happen. But wouldn't it be cooler if you did?